With the midterm elections coming up so very, very soon, in fact, they are exactly 76 days away, well, more and more people, naturally enough, have election integrity at the forefront of their minds. And one of these groups that's actually being proactive about election integrity is the Tea Party Patriots, which is a group that's a bit of a blast from the past. Because you might remember that back in 2009 and 2010, the Tea Party was heavily involved in organizing protests against then-President Barack Obama, including a massive march in Washington, D.C. that happened in the year 2009. However, in recent years, the Tea Party Patriots have gotten more and more involved in helping to secure the sanctity of the ballot box. Specifically, they have set up programs across the entire country that teach thousands of ordinary Americans about election law, and they train them on how to be poll workers. And so, in order to get an idea of how these training programs are run and what effect they're really having on the ground in these different battleground states, well, I sat down with Ms. Jenny Beth Martin, who is the co-founder of the Tea Party Patriots, and she told me all about it. Take a listen.
Elections have consequences, and we have learned since, especially in 2020, that election integrity also has consequences. So we have been working since November, well, since really November of 2020, but especially in the last year, training people on how to build a permanent election integrity infrastructure with a statewide coalition and local election integrity task forces that get involved and have citizens exercising their legal rights under their state law to make sure that they are a check and balance on the election system.
Can you actually walk us through that a little bit more? So you have these organizations, are they in all 50 states, or are you cherry picking?
We have focused on Georgia and Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, the states that had the most problems. And those have been where we have focused most of our efforts up until about June. And then beginning in June, we started doing several different conferences, including this one here, CPAC in Texas, so that we could help train people in other parts of the country, because we can't do what we are doing in those states. We've done statewide tours and lots of training. But here's what we're doing. When we go in, we're training people, and there are 8 different steps that we want them to be engaged in at a local level. And these steps were developed by Cleta Mitchell from Conservative Partnership Institute. We worked with Cleta for many years. She's one of my friends and my mentor. And so it includes being a poll watcher and a poll worker. That's kind of what conservatives always thought you needed to do. Just be a poll watcher and everything will be okay. We learned in 2020 that is not the case. So it includes getting to know the people in your election board and showing up and watching the decisions that they are making before elections ever happen, researching the contracts and understanding the processes for election boards, understanding how absentee ballots work, chasing those absentee ballots to make sure they wind up where they're supposed to, not harvesting or trafficking, but understanding how that process works and making sure they're processed properly when they're returned. Understanding the election system, which includes the paper and also the computers, and being present for logic and accuracy testing. They're a bunch of different steps throughout this, and it is year-round work, and what we're trying to do is build permanent election integrity infrastructure. So it's not just a flash in the pan for 2020 and 2022, but something that we continue for the very long term. So that's what we've been very focused on, while at the same time watching what's happening in Washington, D.C., and knowing that we do want to affect legislative change, but we've got to make sure we get these elections secure so that when people vote for a better economy in November, we can trust the outcome of the election.
So what kind of anecdotal feedback are you getting from the people you're training? So you're going into these different states. I imagine the training is very state specific, right? So it's like here, for instance, in Pennsylvania, these are the laws. This is how you follow the laws.
Right.
This is how you implement them. Once the people get trained up and let's say they go into their individual polls, are they telling you that the people who are already working there, are they following the rules? Do they know the rules? How's the situation when they're coming in?
So I will say that I think the place where we've seen the most organization is Georgia, and I think a lot of I'm from Georgia, though I just moved to Florida in the past couple of months. But I think the reason for that in Georgia is because of a man named Garland Favorito and a group called Voter GA. They've been around for years, and so they had this network to build on top of and to supplement. And in Georgia, we've got local task forces, and the results that we've seen since the primary, we've seen people who have had hand recounts and risk limiting audits. I'm not a huge fan of risk limiting audits, but they're better than no auditing at all. So we've seen that county boards are stepping up and doing those audits and checking their work and trying to build faith in rebuild that faith in the outcome of elections. In DeKalb County, Georgia, which is the 4th largest county in the state, it is a majority minority county and a majority Democrat county. In the primary on the Democrat side, there was a lady who was running for county commission, and she realized in her own precinct she got 0 votes. And she knew that wasn't right because she voted for herself. And so she started raising some alarms about this. And to make a very long story short, the election board, Democrats and Republicans, all helped out and made sure that they helped get the outcome of this election right. They did a hand count of that election, and instead of coming in 3rd place, which is what the machine count showed, she actually was the 1st place finisher, went on to the runoff, and then is now the nominee for the Democrat side. There was an anomaly in this particular race because a person dropped out of the race. So there were 4 candidates. He dropped out, and there were fewer candidates on the ballot. So maybe somewhere along the way there was human error in removing him off the ballot. And we're still trying to pin that precise spot down, not to pick on anyone, but just to go, okay, well, that's where you kind of made a mistake. Let's make sure we document that well so it never happens again to anyone else. But the point is, in this Democrat county, they said, you know what, the outcome of the election is important, and making sure we believe the outcome and that we get it right is important. So they got it right before certification, and no lawsuits had to be filed in that race. So it's not perfect. There's still a lot of problems, but what we're trying to do is to catch those problems before certification and correct them as much as individual citizens are empowered to do, working within the law in their state to get things right.
Now I'd like to take a super quick moment in order to show you this right here. This right here is an American Walking Liberty 1-ounce gold coin. And typically I order at least one of these from our sponsor, American Hartford Gold, every single month. The reason I do so is because, as you likely know, the inflation rate in this country is the highest that has been in, the last 40 years now. Everything like the price of food, the price of housing, the price of gas is absolutely going through the roof. And in fact, market experts like the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, he's not only predicting a recession, but he's even using words like unprecedented economic hurricane. And so listen, I absolutely do not give you any financial advice, but I would recommend that you do what I do, which is pick up the phone and call American Hartford Gold. Their super friendly staff can help you diversify your portfolio by either getting physical gold and physical silver delivered directly to your doorstep like I do, or deposited directly into your IRA and your 401k accounts. They make the entire process super simple. And actually, besides me, they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau with quite literally thousands of satisfied clients around the country. And best of all, to our viewers, to the viewers of Facts Matter, they are currently throwing in $2,500 worth of free silver on your first qualifying order. So giving them a call is an absolute no-brainer. So pick up the phone and call 866-242-2352. That's 866-242-2352. Or text Roman to 65532. Their link will also be down in the description box below. And then let's head on back to the studio.
So it seems like from what you've described, you're just equipping people with the knowledge of the laws that are already on the books. What do you make of the media's portrayal of your work, though? How you're essentially installing people who, let's say, they just call it the Stop the Steal crowd. They just kind of blanket, with a brush, with their broad brushstrokes, paint you. What do you make of that?
The media is going to do what they do. They clearly the mainstream media clearly has an agenda, and they're not interested in paying attention to the truth or understanding both sides of anything. So I try not to lose very much sleep over them. One of the things that we have done, we go through and give these different rules that everyone needs to be engaged in. And one of the rules is to make sure that you're polite and that you don't get angry, especially if you're talking to like an employee of an election office. And I always kind of joke about it and I say, I'm from the South, so if you get really mad, just say, bless your heart. And that's the way in the South we kind of insult people, but we're sort of passive aggressive, so you're kind of nice, but everyone kind of laughs about it. And I just see, and then we document it and then we'll deal with the problems and keep on smiling. Well, the New York Times got that recording of me doing that somewhere, and they were doing a hit piece on CLEDA and Conservative Partnership Institute, and they mentioned me, and they said, and she said, bless your heart. And I'm just like, to that, just bless their hearts. They're not even trying, and they're so transparent in their bias that I don't know, I can't control them. What I know is that we are following the law, we're equipping citizens with understanding the law, and there are some things we can't do. I can't go just file lawsuits all the time. That takes an attorney. I can't arrest people. That would be a sheriff who can do something like that. I can't do search warrants or subpoenas. That's outside of my scope. I can't break into the computer and look at the code, but what I can do is make sure we at least understand the laws and what we are able to safeguard and correct, and that we are the check and balance that the state law actually has in the statute. And that's what we're trying to do.
So you're essentially making sure that the poll workers are not going to be putting up pizza boxes on the day of the poll counting.
Yeah, that is. We hope to avoid that in the future, and I think now people understand that's not allowed. And if it happens, there will be hotlines set up. There were hotlines set up in 2020, like for the victory campaign, for Trump's victory campaign. But I don't think people understood the importance of that issue when it was happening in real time in 2020. You better believe if that starts happening right now and a call goes into the hotline, there will be someone who's getting before a judge going, no, that's breaking the law. The law says poll watchers are supposed to have access. Make sure they have access. Everyone's learned from what happened in 2020. It doesn't make me sleep better at night knowing there were issues with 2020, but I'm bound and determined to do everything that I'm able to do not to repeat as many problems as I'm able to stop from happening.
How many people has your organization trained thus far?
I think that at this point we have trained around 6,000 or 7,000 people. Now, this is in a coalition effort working with Conservative Partnership Institute and the Virginia Institute for Public Policy and others. But I think it's around 6,000 to 7,000 people, and we have a lot more to train. And then we've got to make sure that those people actually take the training and turn it into activism. There'll be attrition, so we've got to train even more between now and, say, October.
I wanted to just quickly circle back.
Now, that was not the full interview. If you'd like to watch this interview in its glorious entirety, you can do so over on Epoch TV, our awesome no-censorship video platform. The link will be right there at the very top of the description box. And I believe it's also worth mentioning that besides the entirety of this interview, well, over on Epoch TV, I publish every single week somewhere between 2 to 3 exclusive episodes of Facts Matter that, due to the censorship regime here on YouTube, you just cannot find on this platform. And so, if you'd like to check out both the entirety of this interview, as well as a plethora of other great exclusive content, well, you can do so over on Epoch TV. Again, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed, and most importantly, stay free.